Approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion of the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. The minutes are approved. Next item is Business Relations Manager Greg Pauley will present a status update on the city's redevelopment area. Welcome, Mr. Pauley.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. If I could please get the presentation on the screens. There we go. Tonight, I'd like to give you an update on the ongoings of the redevelopment area and just a few images of some of the recent construction that we've had down there. The redevelopment area was originally formed in September of 1999 and consists of 225 acres centered at the crossroads of 56th Street and Bush Boulevard. You'll hear me reference the different areas by quadrant: northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast. The image to the right shows the relative location of the redevelopment area and as compared to the entire city boundaries outlined in the darker brown color. Zooming in a little bit to show you the boundaries of the redevelopment area. This area consists of both commercial and residential properties. The boundaries extend as far west as the city boundary that adjoins City of Tampa, as far north as 98th Avenue, as far to the east as Ridgedale Road, and as far to the south as the Hillsborough River. The image here, the map image, shows the intersection once again of 56th and Bush, and you can really start to see the makeup of those quadrants that I'm going to be referring to shortly. The Community Redevelopment Agency's budget is incorporated into the overall city budget, and that was approved just prior to the beginning of the current fiscal year. And this snapshot shows revenues from three sources: Hillsborough County, Tampa Port Authority, as well as city revenue. And then it also shows the expense transfers at the very bottom. To the far right, you'll see that the budget of revenue for Hillsborough County and the Tampa Port Authority is $232,152. City revenue, $260,758, for a total of $492,910. And then that same amount is then expensed out of CRA back into City General. That's why you see the same number down below, expensed out. We are currently tracking 7 open projects in the redevelopment area. The Fountain Shops of Temple Terrace, Waverly Terrace Luxury Apartments, Enigma Plaza Boutique Shops, the O'Reilly Auto Retail Store, Salem's Fresh Eats Quick Service Restaurant, the Overlook Multifamily Expansion Project, and the Silvio Palms Residential Project. First up is the Fountain Shops of Temple Terrace. This project sits on 2.5 acres in the southeast quadrant. The developer for this project is Paragon Property Group. He broke ground in October of last year. The site consists of 5 separate buildings totaling just over 21,000 square feet of commercial space. The map image to the right of this slide shows the relative proximity to the crossroads that I mentioned a moment ago, and shows that it sits there between 56th Street and Bertha Palmer Boulevard. Site will provide commercial space for retail shopping, dining, banking, and professional offices. Currently, buildings A, B, C, and D are under construction. All of these buildings are along 56th Street, south of Bullard Parkway. This developer invested just under $3.6 million into the land and has budgeted an additional $3.4 million for site improvements and construction. The right side of the slide shows the initial rendering for the fountain tower that sits right on the corner. And please forgive me, but things are moving so fast down there that the moment I take these pictures, they're outdated the next day. All the pictures that you're going to see here are slightly outdated. I ended up taking them last week. So bear with me on that. It's hard to run out and take a picture just before the meeting and come in and show it. But there you can see the real fountain tower versus the initial rendering and how it's starting to come together. Here's a partial elevation of the north side of Building A, which will be occupied by Chase Bank. The forefront lower left shows the initial rendering, and the picture to the right shows the architecture starting to come alive. You can start to see the features along the roof line and such. Even in the early stages of construction, you can really start to pull the details out of the roof line. You'll see that in several projects as we move forward. Now we're down on the south end of that same project, looking back to the north. You can see a familiar rendering of the Starbucks coffee house there on the left. And again, we're looking back to the north. The right side shows the actual status of the construction of Starbucks alongside Building C, B, and A furthest in the distance. We've moved now over to the 56th Street side of the project. We're now looking at the west side of Buildings A and B. You'll see that Building A is tracking slightly ahead of the other buildings. They did break ground on that one first, and it's been tracking a few weeks ahead of the rest of the project. And finally, for this project, we've moved over to Bertha Palmer Boulevard, and we're now looking back towards the west at the east side of the buildings that I've just spoken on. Top right shows you the Chase Bank, east side again, and then next to that you have Building B, and then the bottom row is C, and then finally bottom left is D, which again is Starbucks. Next project up is the Waverly Terrace apartment project, which sits on 4.85 acres in the southeast quadrant. The developer for this project is the Richmond Group of Florida. Consists of 200 high-end residential units with clubhouse and pool. The right side of the slide shows the proximity of Waverly Terrace to the project I just mentioned, the Fountain Shops. And you can see that it lies south of Bullard, just to the east of Bertha Palmer Boulevard. This image is an aerial shot that was taken actually about 10 days ago, and it shows the Waverly Terrace apartments in the background, upper left, and then in comparison, the other project that we just spoke about, the Fountain Shops, in the foreground, lower right. And you can see how the buildings line up. You can see that the north building of Waverly Terrace is pretty much adjacent, opposite Bertha Palmer Boulevard, to the existing four buildings with Paragon. This project broke ground in March of last year, and the developer invested $3 million into the land and has budgeted an additional $21 million into site improvements and construction cost. And again, just a couple of sample renderings. You see the renderings from last year versus the actual status of construction here. And again, I draw your attention to the roof line. You can really start to see those architecture details coming out as these buildings are going up. You can look across that roof line and you can quickly see the comparison to those renderings. I spoke to this developer recently, and they plan to seek a temporary certificate of occupancy for the north building by the end of August. North building and clubhouse. Those two are on the same building tracks. The south building is tracking a couple of months behind. And here we see the south building. Again, the rendering, upper left, status of construction, lower right. Picture's outdated because that building already has windows in it and is now being roofed. Again, it is tracking a couple months behind, so he plans to seek temporary CO for this side of the project by the end of October. A couple aerial shots. I would love to say that they represent current status, but as you know, they don't. That's really what this slide was in here for, so you could see that one building is tracking behind the other. Next project in the list is the Enigma Plaza Boutique Shops. This project is being built by Enigma Realtors and sits on 2 acres in the southeast quadrant. You'll see the map image to the right shows that it sits just southeast of the intersection of Chicago Avenue and 56th Street. It consists of the redevelopment of a pre-existing structure at 8633 North 56th Street, which will be turned into 34,000 plus square feet of boutique retail space. You may recall that this project was delayed after a key member of the developer's team passed away last year. The developer has teamed up with Orefco Engineering, a local Temple Terrace engineering firm, and is now back on track. The owner of Orefco is very responsive to all city staff requests, and since that time, we have received an updated site plan in-house. It's currently under DRC review. We've also received initial construction plans and architecture drawings, which have all been delivered in our in-house at this time. This developer invested $1.5 million into the land in the old pre-existing building, has budgeted an additional $1.3 million for improvements and new construction cost. The developer hopes to have final site plan approval by March and start construction within the month of June, with a target date to finish all construction in the current calendar year. The next project site is the O'Reilly Auto Parts Store along Bush Boulevard, being developed by, it is developed, so I can speak in the past term now, developed by One Oak Development. Sits on 1 acre in the southwest quadrant at 5299 East Bush Boulevard. The CO for this project was issued about 14 days ago. The project has been completely released from all inspections and construction requirements. Has been turned over to the vendor. I spoke to a representative from O'Reilly recently, and they tell me that they plan to open this store in March. They are in the process of opening several other stores across the country, and this one is in their queue, and they hope to actually, they gave me a tentative date of March 20th, but they reiterated it is tentative only at this time. But they're definitely shooting for March to open this store. As I mentioned, the CO was previously issued last month. They spent $900,000 on the land and budgeted an additional $1.2 million in building the new retail structure. The project will bring 20 plus new jobs, and as it says there, tentative opening for March 20th. Here you see the front north side of the building and then the east side of the building. That's the overlook side. Next project to discuss is the Salem's Quick Service Restaurant, located on 0.61 acre outparcel in front of the Tampa Mall in the northwest quadrant, located at 5400 East Bush Boulevard. The initial site work began on this project just a couple of weeks ago in January. The estimated site development and construction cost for this project at this time is $600,000. And there you can see they've started bringing some materials and started some initial foundation work. The next project site is the Overlook Multifamily Expansion Project, located at 9237 Overlook Drive. This project is approximately 90% complete, and the new construction and improvement costs for this project is approximately $400,000. The map to the right shows its proximity to the Salem's QSR I just mentioned. You can see that it sits almost directly behind the Tampa Mall. Here's a more recent photo of that project. Doors are installed, windows are installed, the roof is finished. There is still some interior construction that needs to take place, but it's well on its way to being completed. The next project is the Silvio Palms residential project. This is a Habitat for Humanity project, and it is being developed on 2.4 acres located in the northwest quadrant, located at Temple Heights Road and Overlook Drive. It will consist of 12 single-family homes with a park, common space, and the site plan on this project was recently approved. and the construction plans have now been received by our staff. And the graphic to the right shows the proximity to the Overlook project. Here are a couple of single-family renderings for single-story homes that will be built in that project site. And here's a two-story. That sums up the current open projects. I would like to mention that we still have 3 available parcels in the CRA within the city's inventory that are currently being offered for sale. First one there is at 8901 North 56th Street. Then we have an old restaurant location at 8447 North 56th Street. And finally, rounding out the remaining parcels, we have Riverside parcels at 205 South River Hills Drive. First, just a couple details on the first 8901. It's 1.69 acres. It rests immediately south of the Terrace shops, the Fountain shops at Temple Terrace, and to the west of Waverly Terrace. There's a street view from 56th Street looking back at that parcel. The next parcel is the old restaurant structure that I mentioned a moment ago, located at 8447 North 56th Street. Sits on 1.74 acres. It's a slightly non-traditional shaped lot, as you can see by the map on the right. And it sits south of the Enigma Plaza that I mentioned a few moments ago. And that's a snapshot of the building that currently sits on the site. And the last parcel that we still have available is the Riverside parcels, which consist of 4.4 acres in the southeast quadrant. They're located at 205 South River Hills Drive and adjacent to the Hillsborough River. And that is the street view from South River Hills Drive, looking back at the Riverside parcels. And that concludes the available parcels. And I'd like to just close here by mentioning our upcoming CRA calendar. Shows obviously tonight's meeting, and then our next scheduled meeting would fall on May 18th, and after that would fall on August 17th. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Vice Mayor?
On the O'Reilly project, behind the store were some out parcels that were purchased, I think, along with the same time. What are they doing with those?
It's my understanding they're going to sell them.
Okay.
I don't know that that's really gone too far at this point. There's 2 different folks involved because it's a lease situation. The actual owner is the developer, and that's One Oak Development. O'Reilly's entered, I believe, a 20-year lease, build-to-suit lease, so they will be the merchant and occupy the structure. The ground under the building will be retained by the developer, as well as those additional parcels that you mentioned. So I don't know exactly their plans, but in other conversations, there was a mention that they may sell them separate.
Are they residential or commercial?
Yes, ma'am, they are residential.
Thank you.
Councilmember Schisler.
Thanks, Greg. Question on the Paragon project.
Yes, sir.
Units B and C. Has he leased those out yet?
He does have an agreement on, don't quote me, I believe it's B, and it's for AT&T. So he's got Chase, he's got AT&T, and he's got Starbucks, and he still has small space in the same building next to Starbucks. He still has, I believe, the majority of Building C and a portion of Building B.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Chambers?
Thank you. Very good presentation, Greg. Have we had any interest at all in the 3 vacant parcels?
We actually have. I think we're kind of in a slow turning point right now. Other developers and other brokers are starting to see what's happening down there, and it's starting to generate a buzz. We do have some interest in the 8901 parcel, which sits directly south of Paragon, and we've had some minor interest in the Riverside parcels. We haven't received a formal proposal that is appropriate to bring before you at this point, but it wouldn't at all surprise me that we might get something in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Abel.
So first, thank you for the presentation. It's nice to see all the progress. I was wondering about the process for marketing the available parcels. What is that process?
The available parcels, we have, in the past, we have used Patrick Berman from Cushman and Wakefield. He has marketed them through email blasts, through various signage, brochures, et cetera. Many of his materials were incorporated into the same materials that I utilize. Obviously, I am constantly talking up every chance I get. Any meeting I go to, I'm talking it up. We have them listed on our website. I do tease them in my mail-outs from time to time, both social, email, online web, and pretty much any opportunity I get.
Thank you.
Councilmember, other questions? The only thing I would comment, Greg, is I think you said our next meeting is May.
Yes.
Depending on what May brings, this may become moot, but I mean, if we, prior to May, would you please, along April, maybe start to look and see how things are going and maybe talk to us during a council meeting? It may be beneficial to bring Patrick in to the next CRA meeting so we can talk to him about marketing strategies, what price points, proactive things that maybe we can do. The thing that strikes me particularly with the two parcels that are on 56, the riverfront's a different animal, but the two that are on 56th, they've been on the market for a while, and we all think that once these other projects gain traction, that they'll generate interest, which maybe by May, that'll turn out to be the case. But there may be some other strategies at this point that we could talk about too. And I've been talking to other cities about what they've done, and maybe there's some opportunity to lure some of the types of businesses that we want in exchange for a reduced price or some tax deferrals or something along those lines to say, okay, you perform at a certain level for a certain period of time, and we'll give you the land for less than we would have normally. There might be some, so it's probably premature to do that now, but May, they will have been on the market for quite a while.
Understood, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so maybe we can come up with some strategies, and maybe we'll have some conversation about this in our goal-setting session in the meantime, too, so.
Thank you.
But, good. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything else? Council members? City manager? Well, now we have 35 minutes. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll end the meeting then. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.